With Sergio Perez now a Formula 1 race winner and Alex Albon still yet to produce the former front-running driver needs, Red Bull's decision over its 2021 lineup is easy, right? Perez's shock Sakir Grand Prix victory is a new peak in an excellent 2020, and combined with Albon failing to respond to Red Bull's call for him to justify his place, there's now no competitive justification for Red Bull not signing Perez to replace Albon next year. In a race that both Mercedes drivers hit victory-wrecking problems and Red Bull's number one Max Verstappen exited on the first lap, the second Red Bull simply must win. If it makes it to the finish, it should get there first, but in Albon's hands, it was sixth. Red Bull still wants to make its decision on who should partner Verstappen after the 2020 season ends, but as we're about to explain, the Sakir Grand Prix result is backed up by raw performance data that indicates picking Perez is undeniably in Red Bull's best competitive interests. The case against Albon. We should make it clear early on that it's a shame Albon's not been able to rise to Red Bull's challenge. He's a well-liked guy who's very fast when things are working in his favour, but it's not working at Red Bull, and the evidence is overwhelming that this is not going to change. At F1's second Bahrain race, he failed to get into Q3 for the first time since the first Silverstone race in July, after posting one of his biggest deficits to Verstappen all year. And for the avoidance of doubt, we mean in percentage terms, because the short Bahrain outer circuit means the difference in lap time is misleading. There have been minor qualifying improvements scattered over the season, but nowhere near enough for Albon to be consistently where Red Bull needs him to be. Comparing his and Verstappen's respective deficits to pole in the last few races, Albon was 0.68% further behind at the Nürburgring, 0.571% in Portugal, 0.538% at Imola, and 0.683% in the first Bahrain race. Albon's elimination from the second part of qualifying for the second Sakir race, which he put down to completely being caught out by the car's handling characteristics changing in qualifying, makes a final percentage difference misleading because Verstappen improved in Q3. But even comparing them at the point of Albon's elimination is bad reading at 0.706%. The end result is that Albon's performance compared to Verstappen is the worst of any teammate pairing in 2020. This table shows the percentage point difference within each team over the entire season. We've worked it out by taking each driver's fastest weekend lap time as a percentage of the outright fastest. So, for example, this season on average Albon is lapping 0.812% further from the absolute quickest pace than Verstappen. This is to be taken with a small pinch of salt, as occasionally teammates will be eliminated at different points in qualifying, but over a full season it at least works as a very fair indicator of the gaps within the respective teams. So it's clear that qualifying is a big weakness for Albon, who has started every Grand Prix behind Verstappen, but his all-round game isn't great either. On average, he starts and finishes between 7th and 8th, and that's a very poor return in a car that Verstappen has regularly used to be Mercedes' irritator-in-chief. Why this is so damning. Unfortunately for Albon, what happened in Bahrain reinforced what is understood to be Red Bull's biggest frustration. Every apparent breakthrough is followed by a new setback. In this case, his inherited podium in the opening Bahrain race has been followed up with a qualifying low reflective of Albon's worst early season struggles. It also reiterated another major problem, that Albon's not really improving. Yes, there are marginal gains here and there, especially in response to a poor result, but in raw performance terms, there's almost no difference. His average percentage difference to Verstappen in representative qualifying conditions is 0.684%. Over the first half of the season, it was 0.645%. Over the second half, it's 0.724. That's exaggerated by a poor Russian Grand Prix weekend from Albon, but even eliminating that outlier only makes the second half of his season negligibly better than the first, by 0.008%. Over a hypothetical 90-second lap, Albon's deficit means this season Red Bull's second car is likely to qualify around 6/10 slower than the first. So while Albon has got closer to the ultimate pace as Red Bull's car has improved, so has Verstappen, and crucially Albon's failed to get closer to Verstappen by any meaningful amount. So he's likely to be as far adrift in the last race as he was in the first, and that's not good enough. Albon's expectations against Verstappen are realistic, but his actual deficit is probably twice as big as the 2 or 3/10 gap Red Bull wants to see. Albon doesn't believe the chips are down and there's no coming back, but Red Bull must now be asking whether there is. The big concern with Sakir qualifying is that it was not an out-of-the-blue setback. Albon was about as competitive versus Verstappen as he's been all season on average. The difference this time is that it finally manifested itself in a huge difference in position and a Q2 elimination. Essentially, several other cars can get between the two Red Bulls when the team doesn't have a big enough advantage to mitigate against Albon's struggles. And on race day this proved a crucial difference, as Albon should have been in position to inherit the win but was nowhere near. That he was overtaken by Perez during the race after Perez was taken out on lap 1 only added insult to potential career injury. That's what makes this latest setback potentially one that even Albon, whose best trait is his strength to bounce back from disappointments, does not recover from. Inside the car and out of it, he's looking more and more like a driver who wants to fight but just isn't quite up to it. If Red Bull wasn't in a confused state with its own pool of drivers, Albon would probably have been replaced for 2021 already by Pierre Gasly. That's how strong the push factors are alone in justifying his exit. Unfortunately for Albon, that reprieve is limited, because while Red Bull's not convinced by anyone else inside its two teams, it's very keen on someone outside. Perez has what Red Bull needs. As for the factors pulling Red Bull towards Perez, a guy who was already under serious consideration, what more can he do to state his case? He was already powering towards the best championship result of his F1 career in a superb season, and while Perez was understatedly excellent in 2019, he's risen to new heights this year with machinery that finally matches his abilities. Now, he's also a Grand Prix winner to boot. Crucially, Perez has done a lot to improve his qualifying form this year as well, as his one-lap pace was arguably the biggest doubt before. Is he a match for Verstappen? No. Would he slot in and immediately be closer than Albon? Probably yes, because the gap Albon's left is huge. And would he bank better results on a Sunday? Well, the Sakir Grand Prix tells you all you need to know about that, as Perez was hit into a spin on the opening lap and won, while Albon started 12th in the second fastest car and finished 6th. It may be argued that Albon drove a solid race in the circumstances and simply pit stop timings or safety cars just didn't line up for him. But if he had been at the front where the car should have been, none of that would have mattered. Perez was in the right place at the right time to inherit the lead when Mercedes had their pit stop dilemma because of a superb comeback drive that wrestled back a lot of the track position that he lost when Charles Leclerc hit him on the opening lap. He was already on course to finish at least second when George Russell's recovery came unstuck by a puncher, so a top result was secured. It just got even sweeter, and it means Perez's mega 2020 just got even better. What matters most to Red Bull is having a stronger supporting act to Verstappen. It needs someone quick, feisty, reliable, an all-round higher level of F1 driver than the average team needs. And a quick comparison of Albon and Perez tells you all you need to know about the respective levels they are performing at. Perez has grasped his opportunity with a properly competitive car while Albon has not. And even if the Red Bull is a trickier beast to tame than the Racing Point, there's no evidence that Albon's getting on top of it, and plenty to suggest that Perez would at least do a better job. Quite what Albon can do now to eliminate the doubts is hard to imagine, and if he was capable of putting that kind of performance in, he wouldn't be in a position that so desperately needs it. If Red Bull fails to act on that, it will be seen as an admission that other factors behind the scenes, like the tie part of the two-pronged Red Bull ownership, outweigh the team's best interests on track. The bottom line is that Perez deserves a chance like Red Bull, and Red Bull needs a driver like Perez. From a performance perspective, the choice couldn't seem easier. But that's just our view. Let us know yours in the comments below, give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and remember to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to keep up to date with everything from the race in the future.